Happy Sunday, May 4th. As you can see, it's getting kind of late at night, 9:15, 9:16. Welcome back to the ETF Inspector. Before we get too far, I'm not a Star Wars guy, so don't expect a May the 4th joke at the end. But welcome back. I just want to say real quick, I really appreciate the subscribers. I know 34 doesn't sound like a lot to when you talk about YouTube, but when I started this a couple days ago, I didn't know if anybody would want to listen to this. So thank you. Appreciate the views and the likes and the comments. So I just want to give an update on our YieldMax Ultra Income Strategy ETF. All right, so after all the Friday trades, I went through, talked about what was done for the day and our current holdings, but I had forgotten to show just where we stand with the options, percent in the money, out of the money, anything like that. So that's what I wanted to do, so people can have a feel going into the week, right? May 5th through the 9th is the trading week, so you can have an idea of what kind of price range we're hoping for each of these individual stocks to trade in, so that ULTY can win their trades. And if you watched the last video, I talked about the strategy they use, but I didn't have the proper name for it. So it's actually called a collar. What they do when they own the shares, they sell calls above the out of the money, and then they buy puts also out of the money. So if you look real quick, I like Option Strat. If you've never used this website, it's pretty helpful. You can actually build different option strategies, and it can show you the profit, the loss, the percentages, and it's not quite real time unless you pay for it. But it's just got a small delay, but it's got the options prices in there, so it can show you all the different things. So if you look down here, a collar is a strategy for when you are somewhat bullish but nervous on a stock and you own 100 of the underlying shares. So that applies in this situation. It is like a covered call and a protective put combined, because it protects you from the stock falling past strike A, but also limits your upside by selling the stock if it hits strike B. You can also think of it like a protective put, but the credit from the short call pays for the stop loss insurance, with the downside of the profit being capped. Okay, but if you haven't used this website, it's pretty neat. I won't spend a lot of time, but here just to show you, right? You tell it you want to do a collar. You could type in the stock ticker, and then you pick what the date is. So for example, they were selling a 26 and buying an 18 for, I think it was May 9th. So if you build that just as a spread, you would receive $169.50, and you'd be risking your maximum loss would be $672.50. And then your chart down here would show you your chances of being in the money or out of the money. I'm not sure what's wrong with this chart right now. It usually shows red and green, but that's not the point of the video, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time here. All right. So when we go over to the ULTY, we'll just try to move through this quickly. I've already slid over the closing prices as the previous close, so that's why these changes say 0. We already talked about the change in market value, so we're just prepared for the update tomorrow. So ASTS has a call sold that's already in the money by 1.62% and a put purchased by -31. So when we're looking ahead, we want these calls to be out of the money for them to have the chance of ending up being a winner. Alibaba, and right, so your previous close is actually the current stock price, so that'll show you. Has a 130 call and a stock price of 125. So it's 3.26% out of the money, and the put is well out of the money. We don't want the puts out of the money, but it's more of an insurance policy, right? Because if we are making money on the puts, that means the stock price fell, and that means our shares have dropped in value. So it's more of just protection. Coinbase has has 460 calls sold at 220, which is 6.85% out of the money. Carvana has two calls, two strikes at 245 and 260. Okay, and the stock price is currently at 257. So that 245 is already 5% in the money. So again, that's going to be very expensive to close out. Most likely end in a loss unless we have a down week. And the 260 is just 1% out of the money, so it's also in danger. There are no options with the government funds, treasuries, things like that. It's just a dollar amount. First Solar has a call sold at 450. I'm sorry when I say a call sold at 135, and the price is 130. So they are currently 3% out of the money. So we're to the good, but definitely not feeling safe. GameStop. Oh, I'm sorry. Let me back up 1 second. AST Space Mobile and Alibaba options don't actually end this week, so they actually have 2 weeks, so they probably won't close these. They'll probably let them ride, and hopefully the stock will come back down a little bit. These other ones we're talking about are all for this week, so they will end up closing one way or another by the end of the week. GameStop, $29. The stock's at $27.48, so they're 5% out of the money. Hims and Hers, they have two calls at 38 and 40, with the majority being at 40, and those are both in the money. Hims and Hers had a big day on Friday, so they are 7.5% and 2% in the money. So far it's not looking good for winning trades this week. Robinhood, $50 call. Stock's at $48.59, so they are 2.8% in the money. IONQ, this one affects my personal trading as well. They had a huge day on Friday, running up to almost $31. They have a $30 call. I also have a $30 call expiring this week. So it's 3% in the money, and they'll either end up having to pay to close that out or roll it, or that stock actually moves. It's pretty volatile, so it could literally go down to $25, $26 tomorrow. Mara Holdings, they have a $14.50 strike on their call. It is 0.14% out of the money. So if it were to stay just like that the whole time, it would be scary, but they would end up winning that trade. So that one's in danger. Same with MP Materials, $25 strike and a $25.01 current price. So it's 1 cent going against them right now. So as time decays, that price on that will drop. They will get to keep more premium, but if the price continues to go up, that will be a loss. MSTR, MicroStrategy, has a $415 call, 380 of them, and they also had a big week, $394. So those are almost 5% out of the money. Definitely not safe the way that stock has run up in the past week, but maybe it's getting to be a little overbought. I haven't looked at it on the technical chart, but maybe that'll kind of hit the brakes a little bit, and they can get a win. Cloudflare has a 129 strike price on their calls that they sold, with a 124 current price, so they are 3.7% out of the money. NVIDIA, they have one strike for their calls, 118, and it's currently at 114.50, so they're about 3% out of the money, doing well. And then they have the put that's the other side of that collar, but then they also did a put credit spread. So they sold puts at 114 and then bought puts at 110. So if the stock were to stay where it is, that would end up being a successful trade, but only time will tell. Oklo, they have a $25 strike on their calls sold, and the price is at $26.24. They're 5% in the money almost, and those will cost them to close out if the stock does not come back. Palantir, they have 3 different call prices strikes: 114, 130, and 145, and the stock went up to 124.28. So that first one, which is a larger one, 600 contracts that are 9% in the money, as you can see, that's currently would cost them almost $900,000 to close out. So they're going to need that stock to come back down if they want to have a chance on winning that trade. But the 130 and the 135 are 4.4 and 7.9% out of the money. And then they just have the other sides of each of those collars, the puts at 83, 95, and 107. Reddit is 125 strike price on their calls and 113. So those are almost 9% out of the money. So they're looking safe as of right now. RH Holdings, or just RH, I'm sorry, has a 210 strike price with 196, so they're 6.4% out of the money. SMCI, Supermicrocomputer Inc., 37.50 is their call strike price, and it's at 33.71. They're a little over 10% out of the money. TNA, the daily small cap bull, 3 times leveraged shares, 29.50 is the strike price, 27.64 is the current, so those are 6% in their favor, but with a 3 times leveraged fund, that 6% could go away real quick. ProShares Ultra Pro TQQQ, their call strike price sold as about 4.15% out of the money. Tesla has a $300 strike price with a 287. Again, that's another one that's kind of had a decent run up lately, so maybe it'll cool off. Maybe some people take some profits, and then these trades will end up, they'll get to keep all that premium, but they're currently 4.26% out of the money. Upstart has 2 calls at 51 and 64. Let's see, what are we looking at? So theirs is a little bit different strategy too, right? So they sold at 51, they bought at 64, and they bought their put. So they've got a collar, but then they have also added in protection just in case the stock were to blow past their 51. This 64 call that they purchased would go up in value as well and help offset the loss that they would take from losing out on that 51. But it's currently at 50.08, so it is 1.8% out of the money. So if that were to expire worthless, they'd get to keep that $1 million. Vertiv Holdings, a $99 strike price on the calls sold with a 95 current price. It's 4% out of the money. And Vistra Corp has a 148 strike price on their calls at 139 is the current price, 5.89% out of the money. All right, I know that felt long, but people were asking to see that. I will also try to start keeping. So if you watched the previous episodes, I like to show on a daily basis just whether they took in money or lost money, so that we can try to come up with an estimate on what the distribution will be. There was a request to keep track of whether they won or lost the weekly. I'm going to try to do that. It could get could get difficult if they don't fully close all the positions. Like, let's say they've got 175. If they didn't buy back 175 to close that out, but they did portions of it, then it's going to start turning into a real hard way to keep track of all of them with the calculations. And also, the weeklies, right, run Monday to Friday, but their declaration dates on a Wednesday, so they kind of run Wednesday to Wednesday. Well, actually Wednesday to Tuesday, right? The trades that happen on a Wednesday are moving towards the next week. So whether or not they win in the weeks, probably not the way they're paying out. It's probably going to be on the daily wins and losses that are within those trading periods. But I'll try to do both if I can. Also got a request, just a question if I could follow any other funds. I don't know if I could take on a ton. At first, I tried to start with like 7 of them, and that seemed to be a little bit difficult and really long videos. So I could add on another 1 or 2 if a lot of people want to see something specific. But again, if it's something that retire on dividends already covers, then I won't be covering it because I'm not trying to step on his toes or take anything away from him. He's been very kind to me and very helpful in starting out. All right, so that's it for ULTY. I said I would also just talk quickly about my trades on the weekend rather than on a daily basis. So on my dividend stocks, I don't know if I'd say portfolio. It's all in the same account, but I got assigned. I sold a covered call on Misty, MSTY, back on April 11th. The stock was at 1975. I sold a strike at 23, thinking that was safe, being 16% out of the money. But MSTY just kept on running, so I got assigned. Those shares got called away, so I no longer have that dividend payer. Also on Friday afternoon in the after hours, I picked up another 100 shares of ULTY to bring me up to 300 shares. So, but I'm still going to need to get back into Misty or find something else similar because I would like to get this monthly number up a little bit. All right. I also had a trade. I'm on a wheel strategy on IONQ. Have been since January. And I did not make a trade on that this week, but these expire at the end of the week. And so I have $30 call on it, and it's currently sitting at a little over $30. So these could get called away, but this stock has so much volatility that you usually can roll up and out and still make a profit on a weekly basis. So that's probably what I'll do unless it gets out of control. Oops. And then I have 3 poor man covered calls. That's where you buy a leap and then sell out of the money calls off of that. So the 2, APLD and INTC, Intel, I didn't make any trades on, but SOFI, SOFI, is one on, I think it was Tuesday. It was either Tuesday. Yeah, I think it was Tuesday. With their earnings, they made a big pop, right? So my $13 call that I'd sold was in trouble. It crossed beyond $13. So I rolled that, right? I bought the call, and then I sold another one further out at $14, just because I don't want these shares getting called away, because I don't actually have the shares. I have a leap that I purchased, and I haven't actually finished making the money, making back what I paid to open that. So I don't want to let this get called away. So I just rolled it out, $14. So it's obviously clearly in trouble. It's only 0.14% from being in the money as well. But I should be able to keep on rolling that one as well. So that's all the trades I made. I think that's all I wanted to talk about. So now you guys are prepared. You can keep an eye during the week, and as you see what these different stocks within the fund are doing, you'll know what kind of price ranges you're hoping for them to trade into. So if you made it this far, I appreciate it. And the new thing that I started doing on the last video that seemed to get a couple laughs was telling a dad joke off of the calendar my children gave me. So today's is, what concert costs just 45 cents? What concert costs just 45 cents? And the answer is 50 Cent featuring Nickelback. My daughter read it to me this morning, and I actually guessed the answer. So, all right, everybody have a good day. Hope you have a great trading week, and I will talk to you tomorrow.